Welcome to today's webinar on the benefits of outsourcing your complex inventories and fixed asset inventories, also known as You Want Me to Count What? My name is John Fitzgerald, Vice President of Marketing for RGIS, and I will be the moderator for today's live event. For those of you who aren't familiar with RGIS, and maybe even for some of our existing customers in the audience, I just wanted to give you a few quick facts about the global scope of our company. Last year, we employed more than 77,000 auditors to complete more than 500,000 inventories in all 50 states and in 32 countries around the world. We counted more than 33 billion pieces, which equates to more than 1,000 pieces counted every second of every day in 2013. RGIS started doing inventories for grocery stores and other retailers in 1958, and while retail continues to be an important part of our customer base, we have expanded our scope to include doing inventories for warehouses and distribution centers, for healthcare companies, for manufacturers, as well as fixed asset inventories for virtually every type of business. Today, we want to share with you how we leverage the RGIS process, industry knowledge, and our staff located around the world to successfully manage those complex inventories, as well as share with you some case studies of the solutions that we provided for specific clients, including 2 different automotive manufacturers with 2 different challenges, a hospital system, an energy supplier, and a mining company. Before we get to the presentation, I'd like to poll the audience to find out which types of companies are represented today. Simply click the box or boxes that correspond to the type of company for which you work. The options are retail, warehouse or distribution center, healthcare, industrial, manufacturing, mining, or other, and you can select more than one option. Well, it looks like the majority of our audience is in the retail sector, 43%, but good representation from other segments, including warehouses and distribution centers, healthcare, industrial, manufacturing, as well as other. Our first speaker today is Michael Day, VP of Specialty Services for RGIS. Mike has 24 years of experience in fixed asset inventories and complex inventories for commercial and industrial clients. Without further delay, take it away, Mike.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. You know, it's an exciting time at RGIS because many of our new customers that we have never heard of RGIS before outside of the retail area. So when we meet with customers in the manufacturing and industrial sector, we review with them what their inventory challenges are around things like raw material parts inventories, their work in process inventory requirements, and their finished goods inventory requirements. So on the left side here, you see in a manufacturing and industrial company, those are the 3 primary buckets of inventory that we touch and help organizations complete an inventory or data validation at as they make their products. In addition, on the right-hand side, many companies only want us to help them with what we call maintenance, repair, and overhaul parts, or MRO parts. Instead of doing raw materials, work in process, and finished goods, we might, for example, only do MRO tool cribs in a given set of plants. We also do fixed assets across many different industries. And many times customers also want us to help them with their data verification challenges around other things in their supply chain that need to be verified, such as truck audits or other types of verifications in the field. The benefit of this is RGIS has over 150 to 180 offices in the United States alone, so normally we're very close to our customers and can offer a very cost-effective data verification solution to help them verify the accuracy of their data that they need. When we have a new customer, what we have to do is implement a solution around what the outcome really needs to be. So, for example, we start the process with what is your data and what are your data challenges. So in order to understand that, we'll have a discovery meeting where we'll discuss and understand what the business problem you have with your data is. We want to understand what your goals are, and we want to understand what all of the data verification points are. In many cases, different industries have different data collection requirements. As an example, an aviation company, in the data verification process, when we do their inventories, we have to collect not only the part number and the location, but many times a lot or a batch or a date code because of their traceability of their parts, as an example. So that's how we bring some core knowledge to new customers, that we understand what their data collection requirements are. We then move to a statement of work where we have identified what the data collection requirements are. We've identified how we need to interface with your existing software management systems, how to receive the data from you, and how we're going to communicate the verified inventory data back to you. We test it thoroughly through a pilot and pre-inventory testing, so that when the inventory starts to roll out, we can roll it out not only at the primary location, but any additional locations that are part of the scope. We follow that with, of course, the in-field execution. What we have found in many of these types of inventories and warehouses, distribution centers, and manufacturing companies is you need to have a very focused project management capability to manage the entire project from beginning to end, and you need to have in-field experts that understand how to walk in and inventory a warehouse, distribution center, or a manufacturing company. The most important challenge of any inventory is reconciling the inventory count data to what your data on hand file is. And with our process, we offer you full transparency through the whole process of how we take an accurate inventory, we verify the counts are accurate, and we have a variety of variance reports by location and at the item level that help us to provide transparency that the inventory count that creates a variance will be reflected in your system, and we show you that in our system before we give you the inventory data. The end result is we help you to refortify your data with the accurate verified inventory count process that RGIS delivers with its focus methodology. As an example, when we implement this process of a discovery meeting, a statement of work, executing a pilot, full rollout, and reconciliation of the data, we're very successful at helping our customers complete inventories in a finite and concise time frame. This is one of the biggest benefits we provide our customers, as we help them alleviate shutdown periods and get these inventory verifications done in less time than they expect. Here's a case study that we had with a very large automobile manufacturer. We had a discovery meeting with them. They had 2 warehouses that fed a 750,000 square foot assembly plant. They did not want to close the plant for any extended period of time, so we had to develop a solution that enabled an inventory to take place with the least amount of closing down of the facility. We created a statement of work that we outlined what our client resources were and what we had to do in order to meet their objectives to limit the shutdown period. During the count, here's what we delivered. We had over 623 RGIS inventory auditors and managers in the inventory in one day. During that one-day inventory, we took and verified their parts inventory using our handhelds and inventory control software, and we counted over 27 million pieces in one day. The customer received a verified inventory at the end of the one day, and they received the inventory back into their system, verified, so that they could turn on their ERP system to open the plant back up for Monday morning. So think of this as an inventory that took place over a Saturday, and they were open for restocking starting Sunday morning at approximately 10 a.m. Again, this was a wall-to-wall inventory for what is considered to be raw material parts or production parts. Here is an example of implementing the same process of discovery meeting, statement of work, execution, and reconciliation of the data for a different type of inventory set. And this would be MRO, or maintenance, repair, and overhaul. In this particular case study, our customer had a need to inventory 29 plants across 3 different countries. They had been doing it themselves. They were doing it with their union personnel, and they were looking for an alternative solution to reduce their costs, but more importantly, improve their accuracy level. In working with our customer, we executed our focus process to do a proof of concept across 1 or 2 locations, and then we rolled it out across all of the 29 locations. The end result was we were able to complete the inventories at all locations in a finite and concise time frame. We had pre-programmed our handhelds to be able to complete the inventories in a non-disruptive fashion to the customer. So in other words, they didn't have to shut the plants down or anything like that for us to do the inventory. And we would do the inventory over a Saturday and a Sunday so that they were back open for business on Monday morning. Important thing to know here is in reconciling the data, we have helped this customer bring their inventory accuracy up from 80% to 93%, and it's going higher each time we end up doing them on a subsequent basis. So what's interesting about this is RGIS's size and breadth of coverage is really demonstrated here. We did Canada, we do the United States, and we do plants in Mexico. So with that, we have another polling question. How many of these types of inventories did you already know RGIS could perform? Choose as many as apply. A raw materials inventory box, work in process, finished goods, MRO, maintenance, repair, and overhaul, fixed assets, a data collection verification, a survey results verification, and retail stores. Please take a minute and fill out the survey question and fill out as many boxes as you think you knew about RGIS before the call. Here is the results. 48% of us knew that we did raw materials, work in processes there, finished goods, of course. Fixed assets is very high. And survey data collection verifications is good. And of course, everybody on the call who knows us from the retail side knows that we do their stores. So good results on the poll, and I'm glad we are able to help you to see how we can help you with all of these different types of inventory events. With that, I'd like to turn you over to J.D. Bouchard, who is our Senior Vice President of Specialty Services, and he's going to talk about our fixed asset inventory services. Take it away, J.D.
Well, thank you, Mike. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending. I've been blessed with the opportunity to work in our wonderful industry for the last 20-plus years, and I've worked in Europe, U.S., and Canada. And what I usually say is that our specialty services division really does bring RGIS Innovative Business Solution closer to the needs of our wider customer base. When it comes to fixed asset, counting is really the easy part. The actual counting process can take 20% or less of the actual time spent on a project. Our solution is built to be user-friendly. It's built for our people to create, capture, and manage any level of data. The programs are transferable to our client as a permanent fixed asset management tool if needed. Our solution can be used on laptop or on Windows tablet and can be configured for almost endless amount of data field combinations. It performs cross-data file verifications through intuitive lookup routines, and our programs serve as a robust reconciliation tool to provide the customer with the ultimate data insight experience. Planning is actually the ultimate challenge. We determine the best solution to accurately and efficiently count, manage, and reconcile your data. We develop and integrate specific software applications to enable the solution, and we have project management teams globally that pool in resources to create solutions for fixed asset inventory services. A collaborative management structure is in place to better support the fixed asset inventory services. When a solution is designed, we work with our field project specialists and our dedicated trainers located within our various operational groups around the world to flawlessly execute the work. There's the same process we use for complex inventory that Mike spoke about. We call it adapted solutions. Here's why it works so well for us. We first go through a discovery session. For fixed asset, all key stakeholders usually participate in the discovery meeting to ensure seamless integration of all key components are included. We discuss the problems. We get a good understanding on the scope of work. And we identify data collection points such as asset types, asset attributes, and key data elements to be associated to each asset. We then build a statement of work, including the data collection process, usually a comprehensive execution strategy, and we work on a detailed step-by-step deployment plan, including the schedule. We have specific KPIs during the execution, including proper reporting to ensure accuracy of the information we collect. Through the reconciliation process, we offer full transparency, allowing our customers to view the information collected at any given time. We usually call this our open box policy, where we just make sure that anything that our customer wants to know about their data is made available to them, no matter where in the process we are. Adapted solution is the result really of knowledge plus process plus people. So what does this mean? Knowledge, well, the knowledge of your needs. We gather this through the discovery meeting. Knowledge of inventory practices. As John was alluding to earlier, we performed more than 500,000 inventory events last year alone. Knowledge of available technology and tools. Process, well, we have tested and proven procedures. We continue to evolve with available technology at all time. The tools are designed for accuracy and efficiency, and powerful software. And I should say powerful software adapted to the customer's needs. And people. Experienced project managers, all employees are RGIS hired and trained. We get asked this question all the time. They are all of our employees. We don't subcontract any of our work. Global coverage. We have 300 plus global offices around the world. We have experience in a wide variety of services and sectors. We leverage and build on our global expertise. We've done work, for example, in the energy, utility, defense, mining, health and beauty, telecommunication, automotive, recreational vehicles, entertainment, aviation, health, government, retail, and many more sectors. Always working on adapted solution, adding knowledge with process and people. Let's review a few case studies, starting with healthcare. This case involved many players, including hospital management, clients, healthcare vendors, as well as RGIS employees. When a hospital system wanted an easy way to access detailed information about their assets, we did the discovery meeting and found they had a system in place that was no longer working. They had some blind spots in their data. They needed increased data for all capital and non-capital assets and wanted photo digitally attached to each of the assets. When we went through the statement of work, RGIS determined the existing tagging system needed to be converted to a more robust system. RGIS would validate the data while updating the tagging system. Now, this is obviously an hospital environment, so very challenging to work in. The execution, well, we developed a new tracking system for them. In this particular case, it was all database-driven, as you would expect. They chose Access in this case. Gathered the detailed data about each of the assets. Some of the assets had up to 23 to 30 attributes per asset types. A lot of information to be captured. Integrated the old system into the new system and took photos for every asset. We spent about 4 months on sites, and we captured detailed information of almost 25,000 assets, and there were 42 healthcare locations in this case, and we provided the insight the hospital system needed. This time, just briefly in the energy sector, find this one particularly interesting as where we had to get through a highly complex assignment in a nuclear plant of all places. Again, adaptive solution was a result of knowledge plus process plus people. In Canada, this one, there was a large provincial energy supplier that had problems switching inventory systems. So we did go through the discovery meeting, and because of corrupt data, they needed to reestablish an inventory baseline. The account could not disrupt business and had to have a 98% accuracy level, and the facilities consisting of 3 large warehouses had to run 24/7 and all year long, and also contained hazardous material and highly regulated materials. So we proposed 2-shift counting schedule, deploying 60 employees for quite a few months. And the solution, we did perform a wall-to-wall inventory without disrupting their business. At the start, the customer didn't think it was feasible. Through our discovery meeting, we did find ways to work around their day-to-day activities to not disrupt their business. So on the execution part, we went through very heavy safety training. We had some daily shift-end reports to track the flow of inventory because everything was moving. We customized the labeling, the tagging. In this case, it was all barcodes. Third-party to sample, count, and test the RGIS accuracy level. And over 5 months, RGIS counted about 100,000 bins, and then we had about 250,000 or almost 250,000 unique catalog ID numbers to capture and register information on each of those. And we performed safely, and we actually exceeded the threshold of 98% accuracy expectation. And what's most important is we did not disrupt their business. The next one is actually one that's quite out of the ordinary, but we did that a few times. Would you believe that we charter flights and send our folks to mine sites? You can imagine how far that is. When our customers call us to task, we do what we have to do and tailor the solution to their exact requirements. We use, again, our knowledge and develop a specific process and involve our people all the way through the process. Yeah. We call this one digging deeper. So it basically was a global mining corporation and needed to identify and remove obsolete resources. We had a few mining assignments with various companies, some of which were in France and Australia and Canada and Brazil. So this one was of greater scope and was in northern Canada, almost to the North Pole, when you think of it. So discovery meeting, there was a breakdown in tracking procedures. It made it impossible to quickly identify the useful assets from the useless ones. We needed to determine quantity and value of assets in 3 mining facilities. They really did have a hard deadline. You can imagine the cost of not digging when you're in the mining industry. You quickly got out of the way if you get out of schedule. And there was obviously hazardous work sites. So we would work closely with the warehouse managers and the plant supervisors at each location, and we developed a solution. In this case, 60 employees of ours went on, and from anything from account managers to operations managers, supervisors, team leaders, and auditors. We put everybody through some very specialized safety training and additional training on the tools and resources we were going to capture data for. And this one lasted, again, about 5 months, and we successfully inventoried millions of dollars worth of assets, reconciling the data and giving the mining operation complete visibility on their assets. Really, no matter the inventory type, we can count it, manage it, and reconcile it. These are just a few of the various solutions that have been elaborated and executed to capture, control, and manage fixed assets for our customers in the U.S., Canada, Latin America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. We strive to complete the best possible work for small and large clients. We act local, but also global in scope. We're fine with both. We have created specialty services in the spirit of growing our business into new segments, offering tailored solutions to a wide variety of customers. And we're doing so through what we call incremental innovation. So we make small changes as we go, acquire new tools and new technology, and build new ways. And we learn from job to job. So we build new ways of servicing clients by learning what our customers actually want from us. And we have people, we have technology, we have coverage, and more importantly, we at RGIS collectively have a wealth of knowledge that we can use at all time to find very, very good solutions for our customers. With that, I will turn it to my colleague John Fitzgerald for Q&A.
Great. Thank you, JD. Those are some great case studies, and hopefully that gave the audience a good taste of the different sectors and types of companies that we do inventories for. So some great information. We've already gotten quite a few questions that have come in from our audience, so without further ado, first question, how do you do inventories when our warehouse and parts are not barcoded? Mike, that's probably one that you might want to take.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I have to tell you that 50% of all of the warehouses that we enter and see are not barcoded, so it's not an uncommon question from customers. What it really means is we're still able to do the inventory by using our technology to enter locations, part numbers, and lot and batch numbers, and we validate against the customer's on-hand file and validation files. So it doesn't matter if it's barcoded or not, we're able to accurately collect the data, validate it at the point of inventory to ensure that it's accurate as we go through the inventory process.
Thanks, Mike. Another question, actually, JD and Mike, you both might want to chime in on this one. Can you produce data that is compatible with my existing system?
JD, why don't you go first and then I'll answer.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I mean, as you can see, we go through all kinds of environment and collect data, just about any types of data, really, and at any place. So we do come across, companies that actually have no systems, all the way through the very sophisticated systems, and it's never really happened once where we couldn't actually make the files and the outputs exactly as the customer would want them. So we can actually go ahead and enter and format the files and the outputs in just about any format. There shouldn't be any concerns with that whatsoever. What we do well, though, is through the discovery meetings. These are actually addressed with the customer, and they're part of the Q&A that we go through. And our IT group is hard at work to make sure that everything lines up, and it's all usually tested thoroughly during the test phase of the projects.
Yeah, that's very true, JD. When you really think of our business, we're always interfacing with a customer's data requirement, no matter if it's in retail, a fixed asset, a warehouse, a manufacturing company. So we have adapted our ability to accurately communicate with our customers' data requirements through all of those years and experiences in performing these inventories. So to JD's point, we haven't been unsuccessful with anyone at this point. We can usually overcome any type of IT requirement or communication requirement if we work in partnership with our customer.
Thanks, guys. This is probably a follow-on to that question, Mike, that you answered earlier, but the question is, can you assist in getting a facility inventory barcoded or a facility's inventory barcoded and set up for barcode scanning?
Yes. In many cases, some customers will say to us, can you help us deploy the barcode technology on our locations and our parts? And the answer is, of course, yes. That's a pretty simple, straightforward process. And in the JD side with assets, many times we're putting an asset tag on an asset for the very first time. So, yes, we're very experienced at helping customers to label things accurately with barcodes.
John, if I may add, this is a very timely question because luck would have it that this afternoon we're actually going through with our teams in exactly that situation in a very large distribution and warehouse systems where we're actually going through bin location barcoding, asset barcoding, and allocating products to particular bin locations, etc. And we're starting from scratch, so it's definitely something that we are capable of doing.
Great, thanks, guys. Here's a question. This is more on the retail side. We have a hardware store now. How would we inventory each and every nut and bolt, or would we just inventory the closed boxes and use our best judgment on the open packages? Kind of gets to item level inventory versus bulk and all of those things. So
there are a few ways to do this depending on value, etc. Some customers will take book value on items that are worth less than X amount of cents. When we get into warehouses and places when the boxes are sealed, depending on unit of measure, we will definitely take the quantity on the boxes if that's acceptable with the customer. And for whatever's in bulk, we would definitely bring in some scales, and basically based on sampling, we determine the amount of items that are in bulk sections by weighing the bulk items, and it's pretty accurate actually. It's a process that works really well.
Yeah, and that's again one of the values of using a expert inventory company, where we bring that knowledge about how to use weigh counting to facilitate accuracy in the count and more efficiency.
Here's a question. If I have locations in multiple cities across the world, will RGIS have the same technology used everywhere?
As we deployed around the world, we made sure that our technology, our training, our platforms, everything is identical, whether you are being serviced in Australia, in Brazil, in Toronto, or in Los Angeles. It doesn't really matter. You will have the exact same platforms, same equipment. Everything is the same. So we make sure that whatever we work on from a central point, and all of the process and everything that we put together, we make sure that about 80% of it is applicable, throughout the job. Whenever we get closer to the, and local, if there are some variances, we'll adapt, but always in conjunction and agreement with the head office. But yes, we do have the same type approach everywhere.
Yeah, and one of the challenges we all have is some of the customers have grown through acquisitions, so not all sites are running off of the same platforms, believe it or not. So we identify that in the statement of work process, and we're prepared for working around that as we go to the multiple locations that are not on the same software platforms.
Question is, how do you verify the accuracy of the inventory process?
That's a very good question, John. And that's where, in us working together with our customers and the statement of work, we're structuring the inventory count process to not only be counted, we also verify the accuracy of that count through using standardized reporting that we know works in the given environments we work in. And an example might be we are, with our proprietary systems, able to produce on-site very good variance by location reports that allow us to go back and re-verify counts, check for unit of measure changes, things like that, as we're going through the inventory process. So we're catching and verifying variances as part of the inventory count process. And then at the end of the inventory, we're able to provide very clear, transparent visibility to the customer about what their overall dollar exposure is at the item number level. And this demonstrates that we have not only counted the inventory, we've also re-verified the variances that the inventory count identify a multiple of probably 3 and maybe even 4 times. So the customers get a very high confidence that the inventory is accurate and been verified 3 and 4 times.
Here's a retailer that's currently doing their inventory in-house, and they have a question: how often should we be doing our inventory? It's a hardware store, quarterly, monthly, or annually?
In the hardware industry, what we see as the trend, when we look at all of the clients that we have in hardware, Typically, they will call us in once or twice a year for a complete physical. It is not unusual, however, for the customer to have its own cycled inventory routine, utilizing their teams quarterly at least, if not monthly, taking higher value items ongoingly. But they will definitely call us at least once a year, and probably half of them will call us twice. So annually and semi-annually when it comes to full inventory capture. And that's really just to keep the on-hands accurate and just to make sure that their replenishing systems are working, etc. We do have services now, some of them now when it comes to cycle counting, we do offer cycle counting as well. We just send a smaller team and we gather the data section by section, etc. Just for the departments that are to be counted at that time.
You know, an interesting thing too about cycle counts. Many organizations have a cycle count process in their management process of their warehouses and organizations. However, they also get diverted from that cycle count process by other priorities, and then they fall behind. So one of the things customers are starting to see is that an outsourced supplier like RGIS can remain focused and execute those cycle counts continuously without being diverted to do other warehouse jobs. So we're seeing a very strong interest in that the more and more we talk with customers.
We have another retailer. This would be definitely a specialty retailer. They're doing their counts in-house, and they're putting the counts on paper for input. And the question is, can you do that as well as scanning?
Whenever I hear the words paper inventory, that's certainly one of the benefits of engaging with RGIS, because in most cases we're able to automate the data collection process. Again, whether it's barcoded or not, we can data enter on our handhelds locations and item numbers. We can even put in units of measure and verify other data. So in other words, instead of using paper to collect the inventory, you're collecting it using a handheld and creating an electronic file so that you don't have to do the data conversion process from paper. When you think of paper, you have multiple error rates in paper. One, you might write a number down wrong on the sheet. Two, you might data enter it incorrectly. And three, you might transpose numbers in doing any one of those two functions. So that's the benefit of engaging with the professionals at RGIS. We can verify all of the data at point of inventory using our handhelds and inventory control software.
Great. Thanks, Mike. This question is kind of a follow-on to that one. It kind of gets to selling, outsourcing the inventory service to someone like RGIS to upper management. The question is, what recommendation would you have to get upper management to buy into allowing RGIS to come in and do the inventory when they are comfortable with the outdated process that they have been using for years?
When we work with customers, what we find is it's best to start with a site that has not as good of results as what you would normally find in your organization. So in other words, the one that is having a little bit of a challenge. So when we go in there and perform and show them the benefits of our people and process, that usually provides the basis to demonstrate, one, our accuracy is better, two, our time is less, and three, we're able to shorten the shutdown period. When we hear customers say we're comfortable with the process, but it takes us 7 days to get through the inventory, when we look at it, we might say we're done in a day and a half. So when we have a chance to demonstrate that to a customer, that's when the value proposition really comes out when you can compare our process to what your current process is, and in 9 out of 10 cases, we're more accurate and less downtime.
We've got a fixed asset inventory question. Can you start a fixed asset inventory service from scratch? I take that to mean they don't have a any kind of fixed asset software that they're using to manage their assets today.
Well, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we go through our process and sit down with the customer, it is not unusual to get to a place where there's absolutely nothing that has been captured, and sometimes for years. And so through the discovery process and establishing the scope of work, I mean, we clearly define, what are the asset types that you're looking for, what are the attributes for each of the assets that you want to capture. Sometimes there'll be some database without an actual identifier for each of the assets, but we can certainly start where you've left it. So if you have some kind of a database, we'll start by opening it up and we'll start digging through them. We have our own databases that we can fish through, and we'll set up our programs to ensure that we capture all of the key elements that you require for each of the asset types, and we'll barcode or RFID the assets as needed, depending on the scope and what is it that you're looking for. And we'll even come back and make sure that ongoingly that the maintenance is being done and everything is up to standards. But the short answer is absolutely. If you've got nothing, it's a big task. A lot of people try to do it themselves, and no matter what the environment is, you should really call us for a quick meeting, because you'll quickly discover that they'll be probably less expensive, but most importantly, a lot more organized, and we'll be able to give you a very, very accurate view on your assets.
Thank you, JD. This gets to some of the things we talked about in the presentation, but do RGIS crews undergo safety training? Our manufacturing plant is very safety aware.
Yes, very good question. We operate within our customers' environments at the same safety standards as they expect their own employees. And it's not uncommon for us to have to go through safety training before we start an inventory. And we are also restricted in how we are able to move through the facility to keep safety in mind. As an example, we do operate scissor lifts and we do operate lift trucks, but our preference is to have our customers operate the material handling equipment in order to ensure safety on site.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Another fixed asset question for you, JD. Our company has been collecting fixed asset information for years. How can you assist us in reconciling all the systems that we have?
That's a good question. It's absolutely not uncommon to get into a situation where over the years companies have been tracking their fixed asset and a few systems, and sometimes by department independently, and sometimes they even use different barcodes and different systems. So when it comes time to actually bring everything under one roof, we are very good at, again, sitting down with the customer, extracting all of the data that they can put their hands on, and then we start reconciling. And sometimes we go ahead and rebarcode everything, and then we start recording all of the attributes, including old barcode numbers and the new ones, and we don't lose any data along the way. What's interesting with this process, especially when they have multiple systems going, is that we also make it so that the new system will be made available to everyone within the company, looking at the same information, the same deck, and more so important, with the same depreciation tables, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not uncommon. It's what we see the most, and usually that's why we get called in, because there's been a bit of a problem with tracking all of these assets in various systems within an enterprise. So not a problem at all.
So let me just add one thing, and to JD's point, when he says we're collecting the data from multiple systems that a customer may have, a lot of the time the data isn't linked, and it's our job to extract each data point from each different system to make one record entirely complete. So that's our job in the reconciliation process.
Great. Thanks, Mike. I've got a manufacturing question. I think this might be the last one. How do you perform an inventory and keep it accurate while the facility is still open? How do you account for the items that move through the assembly line, for example?
Well, in a lot of cases, we do not do inventories when things are in motion. So if that's the requirement, we're normally using customer-supplied equipment in the form of handhelds that might be online real-time. But on the whole, most of the time that we are doing inventories, it's in a semi-lockdown situation where there is limited movement of the parts during the inventory and verification process. So if it's a requirement to do while it's open, we need to work with our customer to figure out how we're going to do that and what tools we might need to adapt to. But in most cases, I don't know of very many where we do it when the assembly line is open. We do, however, provide cycle count services in companies that are open during the day. So during that cycle count process, we can execute our cycle counts to the right procedure and protocols that don't disrupt the manufacturing process.
In the cases that were presented, for example, because I was there firsthand, for example, in the nuclear plant and the mining sites, clearly those were in activity 24/7, 365. We have within our technology and those optimal places where we absolutely need to track everything, we linked up end of day reports. We timestamp everything that we do, and we do have some rather complex routines that we run on our programs, and we get that established ahead of time. And when we run those reports at the end of the day, because of timestamping and bin location, assembly line information, etc., we have all of the data fields. We do come across situations where we build a solution to work around those obstacles. But it's not usually a problem. If that's the case, if it needs to be done that way, then we'll sit down for a day or two longer just to make sure that we grab the IT piece properly and that we also build the workflow accordingly to make sure that we know where things are on an ongoing basis. Thanks,
JD. We have just a couple more questions, clarifications of some answers given earlier. I just want to be clear from a follow-up to a question asked earlier. RGIS can assist in installing a barcode system complete with scanners?
We have done so for fixed asset, where we have supplied the client with the customer database. Once we were done, we put all of the barcodes in place. We left barcodes behind if needed, and we also left on site a tool that we have, and the client utilizes that particular tool to manage their assets on site. In other cases, we have directed the client towards some scanners, etc., and equipment, and we made sure everything was working together once we've left site. But yes, we can definitely assist and the client all the way through this process. We'll use a third party for scanners. We don't sell scanners per se, but this is part of the discovery meeting where we'll help the client acquire the right solution. It's not a problem.
In a lot of cases, too, with our discovery meeting, with some of the systems that we see our customers using, they have the barcode capability with the software that they are already using. They just haven't turned it on yet. So we help them turn it on and then deploy the barcodes so that they can use barcoding in the future.
One more fixed asset technology question. Audience member is asking, did JD say that you have a leave-behind fixed asset software? Please explain the functionality of this software.
So what we do is we usually, when the client has a need for a software that we leave behind, on occasion, and actually multiple times, I should say, we've left behind a software that we've built, and it's basically sitting on Access database, and we build functionalities within that particular database functionality to work the assets at the customer's premise. So, for instance, if you are, if you have a very basic program where you want to track assets that are coming in, you want to depreciate your assets over time. You want to label your assets when they're coming in. You want to discard assets. You want to remove them from the system. You want to make sure you know when you've done it, etc. You want to pull in reports at the end of the year, both from a financial reason and just to follow through from an IT perspective and from a for your furniture, etc. Yes, we do build a tool, and we will leave it behind with the customer for a customer to manage their assets. No problem. We've done it for government agencies. We've done it for manufacturers. One recently where they were building equipment for control towers at airports. We are currently in the process today, actually, with a manufacturer of hair products. We're building them and leaving behind the tools for them to manage the assets once the solution is all implemented. And it works both on tablets and on Windows environment. It's not uncommon. It's not a problem. We'll do what it takes for the client to be able to manage their assets when we're out.
Well, I think that's all the questions that we have time for today. I'd like to thank Mike Day and J.D. Bouchard for their time today, and thank you, our audience, for the time that you invested in today's webinar. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to contact our speakers directly using the phone numbers or email addresses on the screen in front of you. From all of us at RGIS, thank you for attending, and have a great rest of your day.